Better Call Saul friends, be honest with me. Did you think I was done? Did you think I was going to throw in the towel and not make any more videos? Did you think I was going to go back on my word and not make a Better Call Saul rewatch even after I said on YouTube that I was going to do that? Which, as you know, if you say something on YouTube, it's a legally binding contract. Did you think after this 2-week break that I took, yes, computer troubles, it's working again. Car troubles, it's going to be fixed later today. And I went to a wedding. But did you think after that 2-week break that, hey, Scott's done. He's not coming back. I'm moving on. Was that you? Or did you have faith? Did you know that I would be back, that I'm a man of my word, that I love this show, and I can't stop thinking and talking about it? If you had faith, or even if you didn't, I am so glad that you are here. I am so glad to be making videos again. We are starting our Better Call Saul rewatch with Season 1, Episode 1. Should be pretty obvious, but I have to spell it out for some of you. Not many of you, but some of you. Got to do it. And so what we're going to do is something that I have not seen many YouTubers do in terms of the rewatch, where I'm going to clip anywhere from like 10 to 20 different scenes for each episode, and then I'm going to analyze them. I'm going to play it to you so you can see and follow along. You don't necessarily need to watch the episode before you watch these videos, but you're welcome to if you got the time. If not, I'm going to try and make the videos anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes. I'm going to try and be respectful of your time, show the clips, make my point, and then we're going to get out of here. And so one a week. Don't need to watch the episode beforehand. And with all of that said, I got to say one last thing. Spoilers for all of Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, and El Camino. I can't just put my mind back towards seeing the first episode without knowing what's going to come in the next 6 seasons. And honestly, I think it's really interesting to talk about the foreshadowing that the writers and the producers and the actors all put together in these episodes. Because some things that we're going to see in episode 1, I think it foreshadows what happens the rest of the series. I actually think a lot of the scenes in episode 1 foreshadowed numerous things that there's no way we ever could have known in the first episode. So I think it's really cool to look back and reflect on that, as well as talk about what's going to happen in the future. So unfortunately, if you have not seen the show, you really should not watch these videos at all. With that said, let's get into the very first episode. All right, so the show starts out with the Cinnabon machine going in circles, and then, it fades back out, and then we realize that's a Cinnabon, a delicious Cinnabon being made, and then we finally see Gene. Now, Gene's in the Cinnabon. We don't know that he's in Omaha at this point, I don't think, and then let's play this first clip about Gene being paranoid about getting caught, and hopefully this audio is going to be just perfect. And
I should have been diplomatic.
Looking at that scary guy, and he is so nervous. And then this guy just looks like he's going to punch someone in the face. Gene can barely contain himself, only for us to realize that guy was just going to hang out with his family. Isn't that nice? But great acting by that guy, the bald-headed guy, because he looked really scary and intimidating there. Okay, so that was our first scene that we got. The second scene, we're actually going to be going to Gene's apartment right after, and he's going to be rummaging through all of the things that he has hidden, especially what's in this box, which I don't know if we figured out every single thing that was in here. Obviously, we got the pictures on top, we got the passport here, the Band-Aid with the diamonds inside of it, and then in just a second, he's going to pull out that VHS, those wonderful VHSs, and he's going to go sit on this couch, and he's going to listen to the best commercials that we have ever seen.
I'm here to tell you that they're wrong. It's never too late for justice. Better call. What the hell kind of...
Okay, and that was wonderful too, because that was the only color that we saw in Gene's life, obviously, until we got to season 6. Let's see if I can pull this up right here. Yeah, you see that? Look at that. That is so good. The color coming into his life as he looks at the Saul commercials. He obviously misses it. I'm not going to play the whole intro. Don't want to worry about those copyright restrictions. So then we go to the courthouse, and we saw, and I didn't play a clip of this, but we saw Jimmy defending 3 guys who had done some really disgusting things to the decapitated head. Or actually, I think they decapitated the head, and then they did some even more nasty things to that head. Jimmy defended 3 of them. He was thinking he was going to get $300 per person. $700 per person, but that was not the case, and he's got money on his mind, as my man Sam Smith would say.
is that?
700 per defense.
No. Defendant. Dent. 3 defendants, 2,100, which, by the way, bargain what I did for them.
They going to jail, ain't they?
Sausage, when does that matter? They had sex with a head.
Wonderful. Absolutely love that because what it's planting the seeds for, as we all know, is how greedy Saul Goodman is and how obsessed I think he is with money. Some people have actually pushed back to me on my season 6 videos that I did. They didn't think that Saul, Gene, Jimmy was as obsessed with money as I did, but I just see it throughout the entire show that this is a money-hungry guy. He has money anxiety in the beginning as Jimmy, and then when he becomes Saul, he becomes fixated on making as much money as possible. So I don't really understand the people who don't think that Jimmy and then Saul is obsessed with money. But this is planting the seeds of why he is that way, because he had this anxiety throughout much of his adult life with money. The fourth point, I loved this scene. And I'm going to pause the audio here, but he's walking up. We think he's going to go into that Cadillac, and we are all so wrong. He's going into that Suzuki Esteem, and then he gets a phone call.
Law offices of James McGill, how may I direct your call? I was in that court.
Beautiful. That was a phone call that he was picking up to the Kettlemans. So the Kettlemans were going to go interview him, and he had to pretend that he had a receptionist, and Bob Odenkirk really does a great job with those impressions. So that was a really cool scene to see, and it was also setting the scene, again, that Jimmy's not well off. He's driving a junker of a car. Now, he pulls out of the courthouse, and we get this great scene introducing us to Mike.
They're saving people's lives, so.
Well, gee, that's swell. And thank you for restoring my faith in the judicial system. Now, you either pay the $3 or you go back inside and you get an additional sticker.
Jimmy couldn't even believe it. And that's one of the running things that we see throughout their relationship, is not just the car stickers, but that antagonistic type relationship, the give and take that they have with each other. They never seem to quite get along, and we see that throughout Better Call Saul, although I feel like there is some amicability in that relationship, if that's a word, but obviously they're always kind of nitpicking at each other about various things in Better Call Saul as well as in Breaking Bad. Now in this scene that we get right here, Jimmy walks in to the ladies' nail salon. Man, I'm forgetting her name right now, and he goes to the back and we see him getting rid of all of his mail, and then he opens up this letter from HHM, Howard Hamlin, and he has a check written out to Chuck, and this does not make Jimmy very happy. So this is a great introduction to Howard and HHM, although it's very it's oblique, if oblique's the right word. It's not overt. We're going to meet Howard later in the very next scene, I think, but this is setting the stage for Howard and Chuck and Jimmy's relationship.
Until then, no more painting any check.
And then Jimmy walks in to HHM's office, the big conference room table, and we see Howard as well as the 4 associates, including Kim, and now Jimmy is upset with Howard about that check and about what's going on with Chuck. Will he come back to HHM, or is he done, and should he retire? I'm going to play this clip, and hopefully the whole thing avoids copyright, because I think it's really important, because I think Howard's actually right here, and I think Jimmy's kind of stretching the truth a little bit. So let me play this.
Designed to make it look like Chuck still works here. He doesn't. He never will again. It's time to do right by him and cash him out.
So these are Chuck's own wishes that you're conveying?
This is what's best for him.
Notice how Jimmy doesn't answer that question directly. This is what's best for him. He didn't answer Howard's question. Howard's question is, did Chuck ask you to say this? Which obviously we all know Chuck did not want Jimmy to say this to Howard. But Jimmy's kind of going, I don't know, maybe going behind Chuck's back. He's definitely not following Chuck's wishes, as we later find out.
So he personally told you that it's his wish to withdraw from the firm? See, that would surprise me. Howard's right. I don't know what to tell you. Sorry, guys. Howard was right there.
So this is at the very same scene. Jimmy's just walking out, and he's going to go to that top of that conference room table, and he's going to make a very funny saying right here.
And you will atone.
It's Ned Beatty from Network. For Christ's sakes, guys.
Oh wait, let's stop at the HHM. Oh yeah, isn't that beautiful? I kind of want that for my business. That's really nice. So with this scene, it kind of we kind of get the idea that Jimmy's a jokester, and he's kind of bigger than life kind of figure, at least personality. But it's also kind of a sly reference to Howard, like, hey, you're going to atone for what you're doing here. Like, what you're doing is not right. And obviously, as we find out in seasons 1 and 2 and 3, Jimmy really does have a bone to pick with Howard, and he doesn't feel like Howard's doing the right thing. But as I've talked about many, many times in season 6 in my videos in those episodes, this is a foreshadowing of what Jimmy and Saul has to do. He has to atone for his sins and his mistakes and his actions. So I liked how this kind of changed. We saw this in one way in seasons 1, 2, and 3, but then as we got on with the show, we realized Howard really isn't a bad guy. Definitely not perfect, but he's not a bad guy. Then we kind of see this scene in a different light. Now let's go on to the very next scene with Howard and Jimmy here. This was one that I missed. I had not remembered this until I watched this episode again.
Jimmy, sometimes in our line of work, you can get so caught up in the idea of winning that you forget to listen to your heart.
I don't know if the writers knew where the story was going to go in season 1. I don't think they did, but I thought this was a beautifully placed line. Howard's basically foreshadowing that, Jimmy and then Saul is going to become this callous guy who is devoid of emotions. And it was right there in front of us in season 1, episode 1. But I have not heard too many people reference this. Maybe someone in my YouTube comments mentioned it, but I thought this was great foreshadowing here. Now, when Jimmy walks out, he hears that, let me pause this. He hears that Howard says, "Hi, Betsy, nice to see you." And then he sees it's Betsy Kettleman along with her husband. So he's really pissed off. He walks out of HHM, and then we get the introduction of Kim being his friend. So we saw her in the not in the courtroom, in the conference room scene before, but we had no idea what their relationship was. So now, at this point, at the very least, we know that they are friends. We don't know what the extent of that friendship is, but we know that they're friends. They're cordial with each other. And then, I do not smoke, folks. I think I've smoked 1 cigarette in my entire life, so I don't know, if sharing cigarettes is an intimate thing or not, but I feel like sharing a cigarette is pretty intimate, especially the way that Jimmy and Kim are going to share it here. So let's watch. So he takes it from her, takes his puff. 2 puffs, Jimmy? Yeah, 2 puffs. And then he sticks it back in her mouth. Look, maybe all you smokers can tell me in the comments down below, but that tells me that they're close. They're more than just friends. They're more than just, acquaintances at work. They have some kind of intimate relationship, maybe not romantic, but some kind of intimate relationship there. And then the last one that I have with Kim and Jimmy is going to be still down here in the parking lot, and Kim is going to say her second line of this entire episode. She's only got 2 lines in the whole first episode.
Couldn't you just...
No, I can't.
Okay, and just in case you couldn't hear that, Jimmy says, "Couldn't you just," and then she cuts him off and she says, "I can't." Kim immediately sets boundaries on Jimmy. I don't know when these boundaries started, but Kim knows Jimmy enough to this point to know that she's got to say, "Hey, this is off limits. Can't do this. Don't even bother asking." So she's got some kind of understanding of who Jimmy is and what types of things he's inclined to try. The last scene that we're going to play here comes in the parking lot as well. The conversation ends. Kim goes up and cleans up after Jimmy. I do need to apologize. This should say 13 right here, not 12. So my bad on that. The next one should be 14. But the point is that, in season 1, episode 1, we see Kim cleaning up after Jimmy, and she's going to do that basically the whole series, in my mind. And that's definitely an important theme that we see throughout the show. And now let's go on to hopefully this is going to be 14. I don't know. We'll find out if it is. Perfect. Okay, so Chuck, we get our introduction to Chuck, and Jimmy comes into the house. He does all of the things that he needs to do with, getting rid of his cell phone, and he's got his lantern. And so we're just like, what in the world is going on? We find out that Jimmy is the brother to Chuck, and they're talking about how Jimmy is upset about getting that $700 check when he thought it should have been $2,100. And Chuck is trying to give him some lawyerly and brotherly advice here.
It's beside the point.
Money is not beside the point. Money is the point.
I keep telling you, have patience. There are no shortcuts. Do good work, and the clients
will come.
And this is a big, obviously, issue between both of them. Chuck thinks that Jimmy takes shortcuts in life, and he is so worried that Jimmy, if he becomes, full-fledged lawyer, he's going to keep on taking those shortcuts. And he's also trying to encourage him that money is not the only thing going on in his life, So these are two big points that we see echoed throughout the entire series here. So nice setting the table for us to enjoy all of that in this very first episode.
Speaking of which, Howard brought this. He's concerned. Well, you have to admit it could be confusing.
Hopefully you can see that. It's the James M. McGill logo on some lighters, which matches the HHM logo. Howard wants Jimmy to change it, and Jimmy wants no part of it. He says, this is my name. This is my identity. But as we see in the very next scene, Chuck kind of sets the stage for Jimmy to change his demeanor and change who he is. So let's see what Chuck says in this very next point.
Wouldn't you rather build your own identity? Why ride on someone else's coattails?
What's so funny about this is that, Chuck obviously just wants Jimmy to change the logo, change the name of his firm, not name it after himself, and go on with his merry way as a lawyer. But Jimmy takes this to the extreme. He builds a brand new identity. He builds the identity of Saul Goodman instead of just changing his name to Vanguard Law, which I think is what Chuck originally wanted him to do. All right, 2 more points for us, and then we're going to wrap up for the day.
Let me tell you about a young guy in a town called Cicero, Illinois. And in Cicero, he was the man. They called him Slippin' Jimmy.
Now, this whole scene, which I did not play for you guys, is really good, and he really talks himself up about his life in Cicero, how all the women wanted him, all the guys wanted to be him, and he's telling this to the 2 skateboarding guys who tried to con him earlier in the episode, but they did not get away with it. But this, again, they're laying the foundation for the entire series by all of the different things that we've seen here. Kim and Jimmy having an intimate relationship, Slipping Jimmy, Chuck wanting Jimmy to change his identity. All these different things are going to be recurring themes in the entire show, and they were somehow able to fit them all into one episode, 50 minutes in the very first season. And so obviously what these guys are going to do, if you're not watching the episode, what these 2 skateboarders are going to do is they're going to try and run a scam on Betsy Kettleman and try and get in an accident with her. Saul's going to come to the rescue. Jimmy's going to come to the rescue, talk them out of suing Betsy in exchange for Betsy working with Jimmy. Kind of a convoluted storyline, but I think I got that right. Unfortunately, the skateboarder guys get the wrong person, and they end up basically faking this accident on another woman's car with a similar car. Maybe it's the same car, but it's not the right woman. It's not Betsy Kettleman. It is someone else, and let's go to who that is in my last point. And there he is, our man, Crazy Tuco. He's going to stick his head out, and so we're going to find out in the next episode what happens to Jimmy here. This is a great introduction to Tuco. I know some people back in the day, they thought this was fan service, but honestly, in a sequel or a prequel, there's going to be some type of references to characters that people just aren't going to like. So I really think introducing Tuco in this way, I think it's totally fine. We got to get him in there. We got to get some kind of connection to Jimmy and the cartel at some point. And so I thought this was a fun way to do it that integrates with Jimmy's scamming, and we're going to see Jimmy's talking abilities and how he's able to finagle himself out of certain situations in the very next episode, which I hope to get to you guys within the next week. I'm going to try and do these weekly so we can keep on watching this show together. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I will see you next time. Bye.
And thank you for restoring my faith in the judicial system.
You know, Jimmy, sometimes in our line of work,